Someday, oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. You're welcome to join in, but we don't have the lyrics anywhere, so you better remember them. We walk hand in hand. We walk hand in hand. We walk hand in hand. Someday, oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall all be free. We shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
Welcome. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Chattanooga. My name is the Reverend Mandy Goheen. My pronouns are she, her. And the first thing I want to say is I am so glad and say thanks to all of you for being here today, for sharing your time with us on what is like kind of another one of my biggest holidays. I know we've just gotten through the holiday season, but MLK Sunday is pretty important to my story and to the stories of countless people, including probably many of you. The way we are touched by the continual unfolding revelation of what we learned from this one human who surely changed everything will never stop. And the message of hope beneath the hard times is what we continue to grow in this day. And we're going to talk about where those seeds of hope are in all of us and how the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't throw a stone in the water. He splashed a boulder, and it caused ripples that we are still feeling today. So welcome into a time of thinking of how to cause ripples, how to receive them, and how to grow. When Dr. King shifted gears, the campaign shifted from the civil rights campaign to a human rights campaign. And in launching something he specifically called the Poor People's Campaign that we will talk about today, he said these words during organizing. I think it is necessary for us to realize that we have moved from the era of civil rights into the era of human rights. When we see there must be a radical redistribution of economics and political power, then we see that for the last 12 years we have been a reform movement. That after Selma and the Voting Rights Bill, we moved into a new era, which must be an era of revolution. In short, we've moved into an era that we are called upon to raise certain basic questions about our whole society. In a planning meeting in March of 1968, Dr. King described why this should be a coalition effort. This is a highly significant event, the beginning of a new cooperation, understanding, and determination by poor people of all colors, backgrounds, to assert and to win the rights for a decent life in respect and cultural dignity. Many people were included in this Poor People's Campaign, this original campaign that didn't happen until a month or two after Dr. King died. Many leaders of Native American, Puerto Rican, Mexican American, poor white Appalachian communities pledged themselves to the Poor People Campaign. And you can read more about this in Dr. King's version, the Poor People's Campaign 1967 to 1968. I'm going to give you lots of information about how to correct the history in your head today. And so we'll be talking about that as well. But we are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, and we do a thing that is light a chalice of hope and light to mark our time together. And I'd like to invite the Reverend Pam Johnson up. She is our community minister, serves as a hospice chaplain in Georgia and part of our community. Thank you for lighting our chalice today. Can you join me in the chalice lighting words? In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. So this is one of my favorite, diciest songs we sing. We sing a lot of dicey songs. This is a favorite. We're going to greet each other and do all that stuff, but before we do, I want to just give us a little historical context. When we are singing this song, after we have greeted all the folks here, I urge you to notice who isn't in the room. Economically, age, any kind of person who's not here. I just want you to notice, because not everyone is at the welcome table yet, and this work continues. So, do you have anything to tell us about how we're going to sing this, or is there any special? No?
Just as you guys kind of greet each other, Rich will kind of introduce you to the tune in the background, then we'll all sing it together passionately. Passionately.
So please, if you are an extrovert who likes saying hi to people, please rise in body and or spirit. If you kind of like saying hi to people, stand up anyway. If you don't, sit down. And let's greet our neighbors on this wonderful day.
Sit at the welcome table. I'm gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days, hallelujah. I'm gonna sit at the welcome table. Sit at the welcome table one of these days, one of these days. I'm gonna feast on milk and honey. I'm gonna feast on milk and honey one of these days, hallelujah. I'm gonna feast on milk and honey. Feast on milk and God's children gonna sit together. Yes, all God's children gonna sit together one of these days. Hallelujah. All God's children gonna sit together. All God's children gonna sit together one of these days. One of these days. I'm gonna sit at the welcome table. I'm gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. Hallelujah. I'm gonna sit at the welcome table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days.
Yes, please be seated. Woo, this place is lit up. It is time for our story for all ages, young and old alike. My best friend Autumn, anyone who would like to come up and listen to me tell a little story. I'm going to stand up because my back might not let me. If I sit, I may not get back up and it would be awkward. So I'm going to stand right here. Thank you. I don't want anyone to have to haul me off the floor. Who knows who Rip Van Winkle is? Who's Rip Van Winkle? He fell asleep for 20 years. What? He's not an author. Dang it. But he is. He's in a story, and an author wrote about him, so we're all good. So did you know that Rip Van Winkle was one of Dr. King's most favorite stories to tell? And did you know that Dr. King came to Unitarian Universalists and told a story about Rip Van Winkle to us in something called the Ware Lecture? It was a church before he was alive, and he almost became a UU minister, but he had more sense than that. And he had a very specific calling instead of all over the place. So yeah, he thought about it for a minute, and he had friends who were Unitarians and Universalists. And he told the story about Rip Van Winkle because he liked it. So I'm going to tell you a story that a lot of religious education professionals put together in honor of that. And I have the wrong thing. Okay, there we are. The name of the story is Wake Up to Injustice. There was a man named Rip Van Winkle who liked to share stories and was kindly to children, but avoided hard work or anything he thought was unpleasant. One day, as the story goes, he found a nice grassy place on a mountain, and he fell asleep. But this was no ordinary nap. Rip Van Winkle slept 20 years. How long do you sleep at night? 12 hours. 12 hours. That's close. 12. How many? 12? Oh, okay. Yeah. 8 hours if I'm lucky. But he slept 20 years. What would you do?
I was going to say 20 years.
You've slept 20 years a night. Does your hair grow very long when you're doing this? No. You're not even 20. See, this is Okay, so let's go back. Let's get a grip on this. So what do you think if you slept for 20 years, would you miss things that were happening in the world? Probably. So when Rip Van Winkle went to sleep, it was what? I didn't hear you quite. It was before the Revolutionary War. Does everybody know what the Revolutionary War is? So when Rip Van Winkle went to sleep, there was a king, and when he woke up, there was a president of the United States. This is not a real story. Okay. This is an old famous story, but you would be surprised to know that it was the favorite, like I said, of Dr. King, one that he told a lot. As a matter of fact, he told it to us in 1966. He talked about the civil rights movement and urged those who had heard him to wake up, to not sleep through the big changes that were happening around as black people and their supporters worked to gain equality and rights. He asked white people in particular not to sleep or ignore injustice, and he urged people to wake up. Well, in the last few months, a new set of leaders from people of color communities started sending the same message to Dr. King. Wake up! Many of the injustices and much of the unfairness are still here. And there's some new injustices. Wake up! So I'm going to ask you to help me deliver this message to Unitarian Universalists who are sitting right here in this sanctuary. Can you help me with that? Can we say, wake up? Ready? Wake up. Oh, let's do it together. 1, 2, 3. Wake up. Wow, I'm awake now.
Morning already.
Wake up. Wake up to injustice. Every day we wake up to injustice. And we wake up to learning new things and silliness. I wonder what you remember about this story other than about waking up. What are we going to not sleep through? We're not going to sleep through the day.
Oh, we're not going to sleep.
We're not going to sleep through the wall, but we're not going to sleep through the revolution, okay? So when things change, we have to be involved and we have to take care of each other and not just go off and do the things that are easy. But I'm going to let you go off and do something more fun than listening to me. It is time for you all to head down to religious education and learn more. What are we going to learn about today? Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah, right? Awesome. Go have fun. I'll see you later. I can't wait to learn what you learned downstairs. Please help me sing the children out. Oh, I'll change the slide. Oh, no, sorry. All right. Go your way in peace. Wander as you may. Blessed is the path you take. May love guide you on your way. In this community, we need each other. That's why we're here today. We need each other to celebrate. We need each other to mourn. We need each other to mark rites of passage. And we need each other to help wake up. Help remind us lovingly not to sleep through things when we can change the world. And sometimes those mistakes happen and we begin again in love around here, which is awesome. That's part of our covenant. But I want you to know that things that happen in your life outside of the big news items are important and sacred here too. If you have a joy or a concern that you're holding in your heart this week, I'd love to invite you forward to come and light a candle, but I want to tell you something you may have noticed or you may not. All the candles get lit sometimes, and sometimes they don't, but when the people are up here helping light candles, we light the rest of them because it is obvious to all of us that there are still joys and concerns floating around, and this space and every single one of them is important. And with that, I invite you forward to light candles of joys and concerns. There's a shaflaz. Have you ever seen that? Where we're trying to be prayerful, but we don't. That was wonderful. Thank you. I want to invite us into a moment of silence, and then I'm going to lead us in a little reflection for a moment about what we might be called to do today. So let's start out with some silence together. Spirit of love, Spirit of life, Spirit we might not even believe in, surround us. Hold us in love. Remind us that we are a people called to hope. We can hope because we're a community and we have connections that are stronger in our relationships as we build them and we nourish ourselves together. Open your hearts to belonging here, not fitting in, making this your place of community, not a place you have to adapt the way you are, the way you arrived here to make others feel better. Witness our commitment to just a little bit of discomfort together, and surround us every day and every second with hope that our lives might be meaningful and that we might have done the very most good we could with them. May it be so, and blessed be. It would be easy to think that Dr. King's death ended everything. But perhaps it was just a beginning that we are part of the witness of here today. The thing that became so dangerous about Dr. King is he had done the work and moved into what some were calling radicalization, but the truth was they didn't like him anyway. The truth is he had the FBI always watching him. The truth is he was considered dangerous, but he was not considered as dangerous as he was until he united poor people. Poor people had never thought of themselves as a group before Johnson launched his war on poverty. Suddenly, poverty became an identity and a rally cry to join together. Can you imagine, even today, if every single person in Chattanooga knew they had power for good and they had relationships that could join them together for that? The demands of the Poor People campaign were as follows: a meaningful job at a living wage, a secure and adequate income for all those unable to find jobs, access to land for economic use, access to capital for poor people and minorities to promote their own businesses. And the last one was the most dangerous: ability for ordinary people to play truly significant roles in our government. Scary, right? On Mother's Day, May 12th, it'll be May 12th again this year. I just remember that for some reason. Coretta Scott King and the Abernathys and many people arrived into an occupation in Washington, D.C. that lasted for 6 weeks. It was not pleasant. You hear stories of the road from Montgomery to Selma that are not pleasant. This topped it. This was muddy and yucky, and they were hungry and cold, and it was raining, but they were together. And they were together in a new way. They were together. First, I want you to see that Coretta Scott King's boots are muddy. That's the reason I chose the colored picture. They are muddy people during all this. And they are, look at the dignity on her face. And look at the drive to be in the depth of grief and to have still marched and still gone. You know why she was there? They had cut funding for Head Start, and she was very angry. She was driven to bring that funding back to Head Start because she knew that mothers and children were critical to the future, and she knew that they were the part of the poor people that needed the most attention. Time Magazine. This is a page from Time Magazine. This is depicting how ugly a beautiful place was made. We talk about fake news a little bit sometimes, right? So, shanty life beside a lovely landmark. And they show this like it's a party. Does this kind of look like a party in these pictures? People are swimming and dancing in the mud. It looks like a good time. But that's not quite true. That's the depiction. That's the image that we are given. An image that there is disrespect happening, when that is simply not true. This is more of the image of what is happening. I want to caution you against this image. There is something that we do in the process of waking up that we must be super careful about, and I'm going to use some dicey words, so if you want to cover anybody little's ears. It's called poverty pornography. And that's what this is. We don't tell the true stories about what's going on with people. We get focused on the mud and the muck and differentiating ourselves from them. We wouldn't ever go there. We wouldn't ever live there, right? There can be no gainsaying of the fact that a great revolution is taking place in the world today. In a sense, it is a triple revolution. It is a technological revolution with the impact of automation and cybernation. Then there is a revolution of weaponry with the emergence of atomic and nuclear weapons of warfare. Then there is a human rights revolution with the freedom explosion that is taking place in the world. Yes, we do live in a period where changes are taking place, and there is still the voice crying, the vistas of time saying, "Behold, I make things new. Former things are passed away." Now, whenever anything new comes into history, it brings with it new challenges, new opportunities. We are coming to Washington in the Poor People's Campaign. Yes, we are going to bring the tired, the poor, the huddled masses. We are coming to demand that the government address itself and the problem of poverty. We read one day, we hold these truths self-evident, that all men are created equal and that we are endowed by their Creator with a certain inalienable right. These are Dr. King's words in his last sermon before his death. He knew it was getting serious, right? But the beauty is, in this shanty town, in this thing that people were portraying as ugly and violent and hard, there was no police violence. There was one instance of police violence during this whole 6 weeks, and it happened in Detroit. People rode in caravans and mule carts to gather and live there. They gave up what little jobs and access they had to things back home and went and occupied D.C. to take it back, to show what they were made of. They tried to break the camp down several times. Another assassination happens, Bobby Kennedy, during the time that they're occupying. And his funeral motorcade rode through what became called Resurrection City to honor the people in the Poor People's Campaign. And they sang as he went by. Who heard about this in high school? Raise your hand. Who knew about this oh, yay, Roseanne. Who knew about the Poor People's Campaign in undergraduate work? Yay. We're getting there. Who learned about it today? Ten years ago today, I learned about the Poor People's Campaign. 10 years ago today, I heard a voice in my head which was so annoying because it was on an MLK Sunday and I was sitting like all of you. I had been a Unitarian Universalist for maybe 6 years and I didn't buy into it the first 5. And I'm sitting like all of you, and the most annoying made-for-TV moment happens to me that I can't push back, which is I hear in my head, when I'm hearing about this camp, and I'm hearing about the Black Panthers doing security, and I'm hearing about Appalachian people cooking, and I'm hearing about everyone being together, and I'm hearing that there is an intersection between poverty and race that's being addressed. A voice spoke in my ear. I'd like to think it was Martin Luther King Jr. You know, maybe. But I was told I was here to build bridges. And that was 10 years ago today. And the fact that I am here telling the story that you all didn't hear proves that that was a good plan. Proves that anybody can do this. You know, I may not have been more than situationally poor growing up. I always had support. I always had a grandparent who would feed me. My parents were divorced. It was hard. We were farmers. It was not glamorous, but I don't remember being real hungry, I'll be honest. I remember not having electricity sometimes. I remember this, but as far as being poor, like generationally, I don't have that experience. I have a situational farm family kind of poverty in my background. This is different. So what happens next to me, and why am I having this moment? The United States Air Force thought it was a great idea for my husband and I to go back to Montgomery, Alabama. And when I found out we were moving from D.C. to Montgomery, Alabama, I want to tell you I was crushed. I had loved my church. I was a Unitarian Universalist. I was doing work in D.C. I was sitting in senators' offices. I was doing the things. I was hanging out with cool ministers. Didn't think about me being a minister during all this. I just thought I was the cool sidekick. Anyway, running around doing all this stuff, and I get told I'm going back to Montgomery, Alabama. And we'd lived there before, and I did not like it. I was Catholic then. I had a different perspective on the world the first time I lived there. But when we went back, I was a Unitarian Universalist, and things changed for me. I specifically made things hard for myself in order to wake up. And I know that sounds really silly, but this has to do with leading to this call day. I joined AmeriCorps Vista. Does anybody know what that is? Yeah, AmeriCorps is like the Peace Corps sort of-ish. And we take this vow to be poor, which I thought was hilarious because we were living on an airman's salary. So we were already kind of there. And they promised to pay back some of my student loans, which they did. I got college credit, and I got to work in a shelter for moms and grandparents, people with children who had to qualify to be in by being clean and sober. And so what I really found that I did at that job, because not everybody qualifies for that, trust me, is I did a lot of networking and helping people go places that would take them. And I got to know the population around Montgomery, and I got to know the women on the Air Force Base, and this is not usually something that goes together. But I had this neighbor, and she was really profoundly troubled by the women who were hungry and the children that were hungry. And she was an officer's wife, and she saw the commissary throwing away bags of flour one day. And she called me up because she knew I knew who to take it to. And I'll tell you what, they were yelling at her, and she's climbing in that dumpster, filling up her SUV with flour and Crisco and everything else that was slightly expired to take it to the homeless shelter. And she said to me, I saw that, and it woke me up. Have you ever had a moment like that where it just wakes you up? I knew I could do something better with that than it going in the trash. That's what we can't sleep through. Those moments that wake us up. It would have been easy for me to do what I had done a million times before, which was reject a call to ministry. When I was 7, I wanted to be a priest that was a firefighter. So I might have been rejecting this thing for a long time. Nobody was really down with that. My grandma told me I should be a secretary. That also did not go over very well. So fast forward, I'm sitting in the church in Montgomery. I have all these people around me. I'm meeting icons from the civil rights movement who are still living. They're part of the multi-faith group. I'm getting more and more involved in my church, getting in the social justice group, doing all the stuff. And really, I felt that call came out of the blue, but it didn't. Because the next thing that happened is we got in the car on the way home. And I said to my beloved spouse, oh, crap, I think I want to go to seminary. And he's like, shocking. Shocking. He was not surprised at all. And not only that, he had already figured out that he was going to give me his GI Bill to pay for seminary. So I went to Star King School for the Ministry. And the reason I went to that school to learn how to be a UU minister is they used a word. They used relational education. Remember I was talking about the secret sauce of waking up and doing good work is the relationships? I never even went there. I just showed up for school the first day. California. And if you think I'm silly walking around Chattanooga looking at all the big buildings, you should have seen me in Berkeley. But I found out through this process of growth and call that I'm important, not because I'm a big deal, but I'm important, and it's important that that ripple, when King threw that boulder into the water, came to me. And I've been thinking, I wonder in this world, and we can wonder about this a little bit, how many people has he called to justice? Just like we don't know all the truth behind the story because it was misinterpreted to all of us, maybe we could not even fathom how many ministers, how many civil rights workers, how many people he called without even knowing or being here. It's important as Unitarian Universalists to remember that revelation is not sealed. We do not know complete truths. And I think that's what he liked about us. I think he liked to know that there was a process unfolding, that all the truths that he learned weren't for certain. Walking up the road, up Dexter Avenue in Montgomery, Alabama, to the Capitol. Who's been to Montgomery? A couple of us. I'm going to take us on a bus one day, but I'm telling you, just the place is just the mission field. And I don't say that in a negative way. I say that in a way that it is the place to learn, to understand, and to witness. You can stand on this street and see where Rosa Parks protested. You can see the gold star where Jefferson Davis took the oath of office for the Confederacy. And on that corner is Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, where King preached. It's all right there. And it's this amazing confluence. And now they've built the Legacy Museum, and they've built more things to recognize lynchings. And it is this place, and it's not an easy magic to experience because waking up is really uncomfortable some days. But it's important that we know our history. And I think if Dr. King calls any of us to do any kind of thing, today and forward. Know your history. Question everything. And remember not to sleep through the revolution. So, there's another sign from the Poor People's Campaign. And it says, feed folks. And this month we are talking about feeding people. Bill, would you come up and share our social justice moment, please?
I'm going to see if I can make this work. This is new to me, reading something off a phone while you're talking. Never done that before. So I want to talk about food. Thank you for all your pieces of food stuff that you put through that. Can you imagine
Feeding all of them?
feeding all those
3,000
people? Yeah, that was pretty amazing. But how insecure is our food insecurity? Summer Simmons, who works at the food bank and will be here next week, has talked about this. She had an article in the Times Free Press, and she also had a little speech on WUTC, so a couple different places that this appeared. And the title of it is, As the Pandemic Eased, Food Insecurity Didn't. The food bank serves 20 counties, 11 in Tennessee and 9 in Georgia. And they have somewhere around 1.2 million people there. And of those 1.2 million, and I got to be careful here because you know what they say in engineering school. There are liars, there are damn liars, and there are statisticians. I'm going to give you some statistics. 170,000 people in Chattanooga are not sure of their next meal. Sorry, the Chattanooga area, so it's 1.2 million. 170,000 are not sure of their next meal. That's about 15%. And of those 170,000, 30% are children. 40,000 more residents, including 12,000 children, have experienced deepened levels of food insecurity in the past year. We had COVID, and then COVID went away, sorta, and the funding went away big time. And so those people are really struggling, and a lot of them, you know, there were expenses that they had. They may have had trouble getting a job. They may have had trouble paying their rent. And inflation hit big time, and now food costs a lot more too. We have a thing in Chattanooga called the 211 line. You can pick up a phone and dial 211, and you're connected with people who will help you find resources that you need. Of the 45,000 calls that went to 211 in December, food assistance was for more than 59% of those calls.
Wow.
That was the biggest need. The second was shelter, and that was 15%. So demand is up, prices are up. It's a perfect storm. Next Sunday, Summer Simmons will be here. She's the Chief Development Officer for the Chattanooga Area Food Pantry, and she'll be talking to you about what food insecurity is like in the Chattanooga area and what we can do to help. And she'll be here after the service. Reverend Mandy has started these third Sunday, come and hang out, and you can come and hang out with Summer Simmons and learn a little bit more about it too. And she'll answer all your questions, I'm sure of it, if you have any questions. So, in summary, food insecurity is a big deal. Let's help them.
Thanks, Bill. So, the Poor People's Campaign might not have achieved those 5 things on the list, but what they did achieve was school lunch incentives and expansion. They started the breakfast program from that, and they did start addressing hunger, so it really does go together with what we're talking about today. It's the offertory. All right, listen, yesterday. I want to tell you about yesterday, because who was here yesterday? Anyone? A couple of us? A couple of us? First of all, this place was full all day. We had a recovery group in the morning. We had our quarterly council, which was when all our community leaders gather from this church. It was excellent. We had a really cool training about what we believe and how we pass that on to our folks. At the same time, the Unity Church was up here having church. And then we all cleared out, and there was a celebration of life service for Josh Smith. And I told you about his mom probably about a month ago. Her name is Satidra Smith. She's one of the organizers for Moms Demand Action, and Josh was the second child she lost to gun violence. And this community, without knowing it, I asked you for help, and you helped. People came and helped take down the memorial service was here. And I want to tell you, Black Church happened in here yesterday, and it was amazing. I was so excited, and I had gotten very awkward and white for a moment and offered to officiate, and I'm so glad nobody told them that, because I couldn't have done that. I'm just saying. And the idea that we held space for that when other people wouldn't makes me so super proud of every single one of you. And this place, Judy Gallagher, I told her to sleep in today. I hope that's where she is. When you see her, tell her thank you. It was her idea to offer this space for that. And she has worked really, really hard to help a family have a really beautiful celebration of life yesterday here. And, you know, when we do things like give to the offering, we're paying the electric bill and for some of the coffee that supported that. We're paying for all of Chattanooga. Remember, this is an ever-broadening community. This isn't just here. And we can't do things without each other. And we built new relationships yesterday. And I'm just super, super proud of that moment, that we could be a space like that. This is a place of citizenship. I always remind us during the offering. If you are a citizen of wealth, please give as generously as you can. If you are somebody with less means and you only have a few dollars, that helps us so incredibly too. If you can't buy any of the things I said today, you let the offering plate slide right past you. But with that, our offering will be gratefully received. Please join me in dedicating our offering. We give these gifts freely, committed to our mission to care, create beloved community, awaken hearts and minds, resist injustice, and act with compassion. Embrace life and care for the earth. To this work, we dedicate our offerings. To this work, we lose the clicker. Okay. Can I? Oh, I found it. I need like a utility belt with all the different ministry things. So, before we rise and sing our song, I want to tell you a couple things about it. Remember, we're having this, like, Reverend Mandy gives us why we're singing this moments. There's some gender in this song. There's some Lord in this song, there's some stuff in this song, but this song is not ours to change. If you would like to sing a different word, I affirm you. But this is a way to honor two things. This was Dr. King's favorite hymn, number one. Number two, Mahalia Jackson sang it at his funeral, and we will not sing like that today. We don't have that ability. She's Mahalia Jackson. So, what we will do is honor him and think about the way that music also calls us into new spaces, heals places we didn't know were broken, and gives us opportunities to sing the word Lord real loud sometimes, even as Unitarian Universalists. So, with that, I invite you to rise in body and spirit. And Christian, do you have any other tips or tricks? Okay, please rise and join me in our closing hymn.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I'm tired, I'm weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me on. When my way grows drear, precious Lord, linger near. When my life is almost gone, hear my cry, hear my call, rest my hand, lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me on. When the darkness appears and the night draws near and the day is past and gone, at the river I stand, guide my feet, hold my hand, take my hand, precious Lord, lead me on. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me on.
Thank you, and please be seated. So what? Okay, it's likely that in middle school and high school you were misinformed about history. Did you know that? Last time I talked about James Baldwin. He was a witness. Howard Zinn is another witness. He's really, really credible when it comes to telling us history. I used his book to educate my kids about history when I was homeschooling because I was too silly to send them to. Anyway, Howard Zinn is a good clue. He has the Zen Education Project lives on. Hey, guess what? The link is in your order of service, all you friends who are trying to figure this out. The link to Howard Zinn's website is in your order of service. I want to show you the kind of cool stuff you can find on this website. It is short articles written for middle schoolers, I promise. I love it. So this list goes on forever of different categories in history. So if you think you know something, or you're questioning what someone's telling you, you can say, so what? You can go and look it up. We need to be curious about our history and learn from it so we can repeat it with more skill, perhaps? I'm not sure. But we can use it to understand our context, because when we get out of context, we get in a lot of trouble. So I wanted you to know about Howard Zinn, and I want you to know that one of my favorite quotes is the title of his book, and it goes something like this, and it's about the civil rights movement. You can't remain neutral on a moving train. So, good stuff. Look it up. Please join me in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but keep the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world. We share in our hearts, we carry in our world. Okay, so there's a lot of announcements, as always, and there's a lot of exciting things going on because this place is amazing. So is there any formal announcements? We heard the food bank. Next week, we're going to have a continuing conversation. I'm not cooking for you or making my husband next week, so bring a brown bag lunch if you're going to be hungry afterwards. It's the food pantry. Bring your own food. Okay. Also bring lots of donations. Anything else going on this week? Christian, do you have any kinds of stuff?
Just a confirmation that Monday yoga will take place tomorrow evening, even when it's MLK Day. Last Monday we started out with 15 people, had a great time with people of all ages. Some of the younger ones were flying in the air, and then the rest of us did our uttermost best.
I knew I didn't come for a reason. I'm kidding. I'm so glad that's happening. I also think that you should keep an eye out for email. We have some weather allegedly coming. Is that still true tomorrow?
Yes.
Snow.
Winter weather watch.
A winter weather watch. So we have a MLK parade service, all this stuff. Please watch your email to get some kind of big announcement that we're not doing anything and drinking cocoa and staying home in case that happens. Also, this is really important. We run on the Hamilton County School cancellation schedule at this church. Did you know that?
No.
Isn't that fabulous? So that if my kids don't get sent to school, I get to stay home too. We have a slippery driveway. So if there is a weather watch for Hamilton County Schools, just stay home, okay? They don't do that on Sunday. And Matt, listen to me like going, oh, I could have a snow day on a Sunday. Anyway, I get Sundays off, it's fine. But just pay attention. That's how we decide what's going on around here as Hamilton County Schools. Anything else? Going once, going twice. Yes. Oh, but you got to use a microphone, bud. I know you're loud, but it doesn't get on the recording. This is our amazing stewardship.
Pledge drive.
Oh, pledge drive captain. Sorry.
Pledge drive happens.
What's a pledge drive?
It's a plane that's trying to get off the ground, and that plane needs some things. It needs fuel. And the fuel, I don't know if you remember, was little tidbits of poetry, musicality, for any humorous things that we can put on the website and people can look at. That's the fuel. The plane hasn't really taken off yet because the takeoff date is when we mail the pledge cards. And that's going to happen in the month. So be aware there. And on the pledge card, they asked me to put a sentence, kind of a first sentence. So today I decided the sentence.
Okay.
I haven't told the boss here, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
He thinks I'm the boss.
If not now, when? How's that?
I like it. I like it. I like it. Who knows what a stewardship campaign is? Okay, not everyone raised their hand. You know, this is where we get insider outsidery around here. A stewardship campaign is when we pull in pledges for the year so that we can set our budget. It's critically important. It's not the same as the offertory. It's not the same as special projects. But understanding what we can expect from all of you for donations in the coming year will help us set an excellent budget and help us create even more opportunities for growth and community. So that's why we pledge. This is not the kind of church where I'm going to check your finances for 10%. This is the kind of church that you love enough that you're willing to make a little bit of sacrifice so we can stay here. Okay? So that's what. Is that good?
That's perfect.
Tell me your sentence again.
If not now, when?
If not now, when? That seems like a good sentence. Also, if you would like to make a silly video, that's what he's asking, and you need help, I am willing to help. We could do it here. Also, did you remember what the prize was for the best video? Did anybody remember that? It's a Reverend Mandy bobblehead, which I will win with the best video because I don't want any of you to have it. And with that, our service is over. May our service to the world begin again and again and again in love.